Hello and welcome to the Sanely Humane channel, where we talk about being sane and humane for the people, the animals, and the planet. In this podcast, we're interviewing two of New Zealand's favorite people, Jordan Wyatt and Jenny Stone, who are doing some amazing work down in the South Island of New Zealand in a small town called Invercargill. So I'll let you hear from them. Why don't you introduce yourself, Jen and Jordan? Go on.
Sure, so I'm Jenny Stone and I live here in Invercargill, vegan and married to Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan Wyatt. I'm a member of the Invercargill Vegan Society. We're both members of the Invercargill Vegan Society, and we love living vegan lifestyles here in New Zealand.
Awesome. So my first question is,
why did you become vegan and when?
Well, for me, I became vegan when I heard a cow crying for her baby, and I thought that's not right to be taking babies from mothers, and I made the connection at that point and decided at that point not to participate in that anymore and became vegan.
Okay, and when was that, roughly what year?
I was about 16 at that point.
Were your family supportive of that? Or?
No, not at all. In fact, I was vegetarian at 14 and they were pretty, mum in particular was pretty upset and difficult with cooking and things like that. So I used to do my own cooking, and I found friends later on who were vegan when I moved out of home, and so that was better.
What about you, John?
I went vegan at about 19 or 20, and it was a lot of things that led me my path, first to vegetarian, then to vegan about a year later total. And it was the silence of the lambs, among all things. It was a lot of conversations spinning in my head, thinking about vegetarians I knew sort of distantly. And in the end, it was Silence of the Lambs that really made it hit home. It was leather, animal skin, and sort of just the grotesqueness of the thought you're wearing someone else's preserved, dead skin, sort of cut off their bodies. It's pretty horrible. My dad was a slaughterhouse worker, and that was one of their jobs, that they take a knife and they cut the lamb's skin off, and just the silence of the lambs. It made sense. It was gross, it was horrible, it was cruel to animals, and it's not something I wanted to do. So it's not something I support as a vegan.
so I got the commitment, Jordan, but what's in it for you? What's the greatest thing about being vegan?
I think it's peace of mind. It's just feeling right in your body, that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
The right thing for everyone, really, and the right thing for the planet as well. The animals, yourself.
Yeah, it's the right thing for the planet as well. I mean, it's a good point that you're mentioning, because greenhouse gases from the animal farming industry is more than all the trucks and the planes and the ships and all of those emissions combined. From what I heard.
Yeah. And also, and there's so many other issues. There's deforestation and there's water pollution, and, we could go on and on. It's just horrific, the effects environmentally just alone. So I love being vegan. It's just totally in alignment with my values, and I wish more people were vegan, and we encourage more people to be vegan, of course.
Okay, well, what about you, Jordan? What do you think? What's the greatest thing about being vegan?
The people you meet, the food you try and sample and share with others, and definitely meeting other interesting, inspired people who really love animals. It's great to be able to save animals. We've had mass hen rescue down here where we saved 465 hens. It was really great to save so many lives and to see that these hens would get a real chance at life, really. They'd been existing, they hadn't had a life. They'd lived inside in dark sheds with incandescent bulbs for their only source of light, in cages, and their own manure and their own waste, and to see a hen see the outside world, for her to take her first steps, to see the sun for the first time, to dust bathe, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty special feeling.
So you mentioned that you made the change by seeing the suffering of the animals, and so how did what was your first meal, or how did you bring that into the you were quite young as a kid, how did you bring that into the family? And
I don't actually recall my first meal as a vegan or vegetarian, but I do recall lots of cans of sanitarium nut meats and the different sanitarium products that were around at that time.
Yeah.
And I know my mother did end up cooking for me because I've got copies of recipes that she'd written out in her handwriting. Things like a bean pie with tomato top, with a potato top, and different recipes, and she's written in brackets for vegan. And I love that. So she did come around eventually, and I've got a photo of her making tofu burgers in my home a few years back as well. So yeah.
How was it like for you, Jordan?
It was hard for me at first. I remember the first time I went without eating animal flesh, I thought it was kind of weird, and it felt like I didn't know what to eat. I didn't know any other vegans. I'd only met a vegetarian or two, and it did seem quite a startling change in life for me at first. And within a few months, that soon went away. I found, after a year, it was second nature to be vegan. And now I'd say it's as easy to be vegan as not. It's so simple to have a vegan lifestyle. Most of the products at the supermarket, they're probably vegan. And the clothes you wear, things like that, there's always more options coming out, and it's great.
It's just so normal now.
Okay. So you guys are founders of the Invercargill Vegan Society. Is that right?
Well, actually, Jordan, the society,
and how did that come about?
Well, I decided that I used to joke I was the only vegan in the village here in Invercargill with population of about 50,000 people, rural city, and I just thought it's a great way to meet other people. I wasn't sure how it would be the first kind of potlucks and gatherings and meetings and things. I thought it might be like if you started a left-handed club for left-handed people, so everyone would sort of gather around and go, "Oh, so you're left-handed too, eh? Right. So what do we talk about? How's it feel to be left-handed?" It's like, "Oh, it's okay, I guess, But luckily people who are vegan and want to save animals and help animals, they really enjoy talking about the animals and how we can best help them. So we've found out that we've gone from strength to strength with IMSOC. It started as one-person vegan society. Within a year or so, I'd met a second vegan, then it went 3, 4, 5, 10. Now we know about 50 vegans, 50, here in Invercargill that we stay in touch with, and it's just great.
And out of what's the town's population? What's
50,000.
50,000, okay. What's the sort of events like in the Invercargill Vegan Society?
We have the monthly potluck, which we're having our next one on Tuesday night. We also try and grab any sort of local event that we can. We're getting involved in the local, it's SIT, that's our local polytech, having their orientation market day on Monday. So we have got a table there tomorrow, and we'll be giving away some cowboy cookies that one of our members kindly baked for us. And we are involved in the Santa Parade. We do library displays,
Eco show,
health and disability show.
Lots of things.
We've got a community garden plot.
Wow.
What else? We've got a sign that actually advertises that we do have monthly potlucks on the Welcome to Invercargill. It's sort of a stand kind of thing that's on one of the main streets, and we're up there with organisations like Rotary and Lions and
Freemasons.
All these really long time established groups. So the Invercargill Vegan Society's proudly got their big sign up there as well. We try and get in wherever we can. We run it on a very low budget, and it's just amazing what you can do with very little money. You don't need a lot of money to get involved in the community and have an impact. And there's media. You can get involved in the paper. Jordan writes the newspapers, and that's all free as a way of promoting veganism and promoting that we've got a vegan society here in Invercargill. We just try and do whatever we can to keep it up.
One of the best things is about meeting new people. So every month, we generally hear from 1 or 2 new people who are vegetarian, they're vegan, they're interested in going vegan. And it's just really neat. Like this next potluck tomorrow in a couple of days' time, we're going to meet about 3 new members for the first time who are all vegan or want to be vegan. So that's 3 new people right there. And it's just really inspiring to meet these people, for them to hang out with other people who feel the same way, who feel that we don't have the right to hurt or kill or use animals. It's really neat.
Okay. Did you read the article about New Zealand celebrating the one of the biggest milestones in New Zealand's history with regards to sheep farming? What do you guys think about that?
My father was a slaughterhouse worker for seasonal work, so for about a decade he worked at Alliance Lawnville, which is a rural place with a giant slaughterhouse that kills sheep. And so they have all kinds of trade magazines and books that I've read and I've scanned, and I've put them on the Invercargill Vegan Society website so people can learn about our wonderful, glorious history of killing sheep. And they have milestones in these books that mainly it's sort of from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, where the books tend to be from. And it focuses on black and white photos of the millionth sheep killed this season. And you'll see a picture of a black and white sheep with a little kind of a party hat kind of thing. It looks like it's stapled to the head, saying 1 million. And it's like, this is as they're being led into the chutes to be killed, and it's like the whole way, it's almost like a festive atmosphere, that this is the chosen sheep, the lucky one that just happens to be the 1 millionth killed that year and that season. It's pretty amazing. And so this celebration that they're trying to build about the first shipment of our slaughterhouse industries, our freezing works, the export slaughterhouses of frozen animal flesh sent around the world on the Dunedin ship, it's pretty remarkable that they want to build this into a grand momentous occasion. And as vegans, we think it's pretty weird.
I wanted to know your opinion about, the couple of things that happened recently as well. The live exports going to Mexico are making the news, and people worried about it. And isn't that supposed to be all normal? And
it's very horrible, isn't it? And the fact that live export is meant to be banned in New Zealand anyway, it's very odd that this just happened. In June, for example, the shipment of the 50,000 sheep, and there were a few thousand cows as well that went to Mexico, and it just seemed to come out of nowhere, didn't it? It got leaked into the news somehow, and all of a sudden there were 55,000 animals total or so that were just being sent overseas, and no one knew anything about it until it was happening. It's very odd, isn't it?
Yeah, but I heard that the ban was for slaughter and not for breeding purposes.
Yes, it sounds like a loophole, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, anyway, those sheep will be slaughtered after they've been used for breeding. So it does look like a loophole. Yeah, definitely.
It's a whole entirely very odd situation, isn't it? And about the breeding stock, the ones that went to Saudi Arabia, apparently the majority of those died when they arrived. Some of them had died on the way over, and it just seems the conditions are just, there wasn't water, they weren't adequately cared for, and it just seems a logistical nightmare to send tens of thousands of animals overseas. And as vegans, we're not really for it.
I understand.
As animal rights activists, we're promoting veganism, and so I don't think the law is really going to help the animals until a substantial portion of New Zealand is vegan, that we actually would have real rules and legislation that really protect the animals, as you can see with this case.
Yeah. And would you think that this is happening because people generally don't see animals, I mean, what they eat, the food animals, they just see them as products, chopped up pieces of meat, rather than, these animals had a life, they had, their own family, they had their friends, they had their social circle, and then finally they're, cornered to, one spot and then shot and then killed. I don't think people generally, they shut out their brains to all of that awareness where the animal had gone through all of that in life and finally came to its end in pieces. And that's where most humans relate to. They're just eating a product, and they're not and they still say that they're against animal cruelty. Do you agree to? Is that what's happening?
I really agree with you there, Jimmy. I think that's a really apt way to put it. That we don't think of meat as animals in a direct connection. And I imagine if people knew those animals and had given them a name or knew their name, I think they'd think a lot differently about that those animals were a he or a she, that they were moral people in their own way. And they're not just something picked up at Pack and Save in a bit of plastic, or something to send over to Mexico or Saudi Arabia or any other country to be killed over there or to be killed here.
And
it's livestock.
Interesting, eh? I mean, you're right. I mean, if they'd given it a name and let the animal into their house, like how they do, welcome the dogs and the cats into their house and call them part of the family. The bond between the animal and the human, I don't know, they're creating that bond out of the sheer willingness to open up and, create that bond between the animal. Isn't that right? And then they're shutting off. They're not having that willingness to say, okay, the other animals are also, they can respond to, human voices. They can respond to, I don't know, love and affection, or, give them something to eat and they'll come and eat from your hands, or, because...
Yeah, I think veganism, as you say, about inviting animals into the house and into the backyard, and the veganism would be about also letting animals into our hearts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our hearts and minds, that you just consider them, that, that they're a he or a she, that animals are, just worthy of respect, that we're all animals, humans are animals, we're mammals, we're primates and all that kind of stuff. I just really am enthused to see more and more people going vegan and to really let these animals into their hearts, that we have more respect and consideration for the other animals of the world.
Interesting. And when you talked about respect, they have a right to live, and they're unwilling to die for the pleasure of the human tongue, aren't they? And we have no respect for them. And in the slaughter industry, respect comes when people say we pay respect, so we use all of the animals. When we say that we respect the animal, respect the life that the animal gave, the animal didn't give the life. We stole their life, isn't it?
Yes. It's really interesting to meet vegans who used to be slaughterhouse workers, or who used to be dairy farmers, or used to be sheep farmers. We have several members of the Invercargill Vegan Society who used to be slaughterhouse workers.
Wow. And
it's really just neat. It really makes me have sympathy for the actual people who do these jobs, because in a lot of ways they're trained, they're taught, our society and our culture around the world, that we don't think of animals, and that we're sort of, in our own way, we're bred to be slaughterhouse workers and bred to eat dairy and to drink dairy and stuff. And to meet these people that were so hands-on, literally, in killing animals, and then they decide to go vegan, I think that's really powerful, that not only were they just a consumer, like I myself was just a consumer who sometimes I've killed fish in my life, but someone who does it every day, killing animals or hurting animals or using animals, exploiting animals. And for them to then say, I don't want to do this anymore, I think that's really powerful and really admirable, that they can make such a huge connection and to make such a change happen. We have one of our members, Nikki, who's now a vegan. She worked at a slaughterhouse near Invercargill, Alliance Lawnville. It's a huge freezing works. She actually lives on a former whale killing settlement. She has a very small house, and it used to be where we used to kill whales in New Zealand. Do you know the last time that we actually killed whales legally in New Zealand, Jimmy?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I thought it was illegal all the time, but yeah.
No, get this, it was legal to kill whales in New Zealand as an industry until 1964. 1964, only about 50 years ago. My parents were alive when we were killing whales, and it's just, you say that to people on the street now and they can't imagine that. If you walk up to 10 people on the street and say, what do you think about killing whales and dolphins and seals? We'd all say it's horrible. But in 1964 it was still legal. In 1964 is when we killed the last whale. And now we just think it's abhorrent to do that. And as vegans, especially vegans who live in a whale killing settlement, I think that's so cool to see that change, and to think that one day we'll think about sending tens of thousands of animals overseas to be bred or to be killed, or killing animals here, or wearing their animal skin, or just hurting them in general. One day we'll think of Fonterra the way that we think of whale killing now. I think it's really cool.
On the subject of Fonterra, there's also recently there was an ad, I think, for a milk product, and they marketed it as a breast milk, and there was a huge outcry in the public. And people generally didn't like that it was called breast milk, and What do you think of that?
I mean, it all comes from a nipple, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
I think some people prefer not to think of that. I certainly don't like the idea of drinking another animal's breast milk when you think about it that way, or
Yeah.
a part of someone else's body. It's just not very nice. But it's natural for the calf and it's natural for human babies. And I have a friend, Dr. Roger Yates, who likes to put that in perspective that, I mean, surely there's a time in our lives as adults that we should wean ourselves off drinking breast milk, and that we should move past that. We should grow up and not consume the milk of other animals. I mean, we're not really meant to do that into our adult lives.
I very much agree to that, you know.
Yeah, I'm reading a quote from the Stuff website, and it says that the people that don't like that it's being called breast milk when it's cow's milk, it says, sadly, I think this is misguided advertising. Labeling a cow's milk product as breast milk is not acceptable. The product does not contain any human milk and does not come from a breast, but an udder.
Well,
you know, it's that kind of playing around with the words a bit. It's a bit like sending all those sheep overseas to be bred compared to being killed. I mean, it's sort of the same end, and you know, a breast and an udder.
Yeah, they just hang on to the words, right? I mean, the use of the wrong words. I mean, what's word, but your actions are still the same.
I agree, yeah.
It's the same part of the body, you know, like the same part of the animal body and the same part of the human body. But the word is different, so people are outraged. It's crazy. So I guess when we talk about vegans, vegans are the ones who've actually weaned off, and the non-vegans haven't weaned off breast milk as yet, and that's alarming.
Well, I think as we both see more and more vegans in New Zealand and across the world, I think it's really encouraging. And to think about also the people who used to be dairy farmers and who used to work on dairy farms and who used to do things to animals like that, who are now vegan, I think it's really great to see. And in so many ways, if those people still remain friends with their mates and colleagues who still work in those situations, they're kind of a good role model, aren't they? That actually Jordan's still the same, or Carl's still the same, or Nikki's still the same as they were before. It's just they're like, oh, I don't want to drink breast milk. I don't want to eat someone else's flesh. I don't want to wear their skin.
And we also hear a lot from the media and the ads, I guess, that we need a lot of protein and iron, especially the women.
But I do think it's pretty sick that they have the Iron Maidens, like the beef and lamb, that they particularly use women for their athletes.
Yeah.
And that they say you need iron, because the people most likely from surveys, I can send you a great survey, it's Go Vegan, it's a big group in New Zealand. And in 2013 they did a survey of vegans, and most people went vegan, it's almost 80% female, so women are way more likely to be vegan than men. And generally it's in their late teenage years, so the time when they're experimenting in things. And then you see beef and lamb that they do this thing called the Iron Maidens with all kinds of big female sports celebrities. They're called the Iron Maidens. It's about iron, and it's basically telling women that you need iron, you're going to die if you don't eat meat, basically. And they're the ones most likely to go vegetarian or vegan. So it's kind of creepy. But they like put this like fear that they're going to die if they don't eat meat. Yeah.
So what do you do for fitness? You mentioned that you've done some Ironman or triathlon or something like that.
I had, but that was a little while ago, so I don't really claim to be an athlete anymore at all. But I enjoyed doing that event, and it was an awesome thing to do. And from that event, I not only learned to swim in the course of training for that event, but I learned that I love cycling. So cycling's really been my thing.
So was it a triathlon?
That was a triathlon. That was an Ironman full distance triathlon. So that was where you swim 3.8 kilometres and you cycle 180 kilometres and you run a marathon. And it's all in one day, as fast as you can. And I wasn't racing because I've never done a triathlon before, let alone an Ironman triathlon before. And I was 18 and I just learned to swim. So I just wanted to finish it because I wanted at that point for some things in my life to be better. And I sort of thought, if I can do this, if I can finish this event, I can do anything. And that was why it was so important for me to finish, and I did all kinds of crazy things to finish, and I did finish, and I loved it. My body was sore, very sore afterwards for quite a while, but through that I did learn, as I say, to love cycling, and I used to ride my bike a lot just for fun after that event, and then I started racing, and I raced a couple of seasons in Dunedin when I was a student there. I really enjoyed that. And then I got a bit of a niggly sore back, so unfortunately after a few years I sold my lovely road bike, and I just have my mountain bike now, and I kind of cruise, I ride to work, and I go on sort of just fun, what I call picnic rides. I don't have a competitive sort of spirit in me anymore. I'm more all about all-round fitness, health fitness.
Wow, that's impressive, Jen. And I guess participating at these events gives you an opportunity to spread the word about veganism, and the whole health and fitness conversation is a whole new conversation. We've seen a lot of athletes becoming vegan and stepping up their performance to whole new levels. Yeah, maybe I'll do another interview with someone about that. But today I know you guys are busy with your commitments, as busy people you are. So I want to thank you guys so much for, generously spending your time with me. So thank you so much. And
oh, thank you very much, Jimmy. We appreciate the interview. We just want to see more people get active in promoting veganism. That would be great.
All right, thank you so much, Jane and Joel.
Hey, no problem.
See you again.
Take care.